So we are joined from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, by my friend Shevonne Chin, owner of Flik FX, Flik Fireworks, pyrotechnic expert, firework expert, first uh, swarm drone pilot female swarm drone pilot in Canadian history, part of Canada's top 100 black women to watch. We thank you so much for taking some time for us again today. This is our entrepreneurship class. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School. And we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central, Rosa Scott, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So we thank you once again for joining us from north of the border.
Thank you so much for having me, Greg. It's always a pleasure to join and, feel the next generation of people who are going to get into aerospace in any kind of a way.
Yeah, and it's cool because it's such a cool combo because last year you spoke to our computer science engineering class, and this is our entrepreneurship class. So even if they're not interested in aeronautics or any of the things you do, you created a successful business by learning a new skill, meeting a need, and finding a way to set yourself apart. Because we've looked at some of your work, we looked at that cool drone show you did at Niagara Falls. We've looked at some of the at some of your clips where you've got the fireworks and things. So just give us a little background on how you got into this because it's not something every day you see somebody that's shooting off fireworks and making a living doing it.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny we're talking about entrepreneurship altogether. I just did an 8-week residency with the Toronto Public Library, specifically talking about entrepreneurship, and specifically within the Black community and how to build success through entrepreneurship and to leave a legacy that's powerful. So, entrepreneurship, it's a really a special thing. It's something that no two paths are the same. It's something that can be extremely rewarding. Um, but there's a lot to learn, and as you go through each milestone, as you get bigger from beginning to, as you start to scale, um, there'll be different challenges at each step of the road. But it's about being able to come up with new solutions and being ready to pivot so that you stay viable and you stay relevant in today's economy, especially with everything changing. Entrepreneurship essentially is about providing a solution to somebody's problem. Um, and if you can solve a pain point for anybody, that's how you make money. And that's really the long and short of it. And if you can take that one step further by finding a solution for somebody and doing something that you really love, that's where the sweet spot is.
Yeah, and the cool thing is you keep growing this business, but you didn't go to university to get a degree in pyrotechnics, aeronautics, and swarm drones. So, how did you get into this area? Because it is kind of a new business, but you've doing really well.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes. Essentially when I did go to post-secondary school, it was for accounting and bookkeeping. I was in a space where I understood that payroll was a really safe job to have. And even in today's economy, in every
Yeah.
business you have, payroll is a very safe position.
Oh, big
Um,
time.
they typically say that, the first two people you hire is your accountant and your lawyer.
Yep.
Shortly after that, as you start hiring employees, you need somebody to manage that. And that's typically your payroll department. And even when you're working right throughout having a business, whether you're successful or not successful, even if your business is being dissolved or your business goes under, there's still a component where the payroll has to be they're the first person on board and their last person off board.
Oh yeah.
So they're the most secure position within a business was my rationale. And I was there for a while. I was doing contract work. I got hired by OPG, which is Ontario Power Generation. Um, they're the ones who do like Toronto Hydro and they
Oh
provide the
yeah.
power to the country. So I had a payroll of maybe 50,000 people, staff. And it was a big deal. I loved numbers. It made sense. It was easy enough to, again, for me, I understood that in paying people, it was also a pain point. People needed to get paid if something was wrong with their pay. It was a major thing. Some people lived from check to check. And, it was very important to make sure that they were accurately paid. And then I had a couple of kids, and then I didn't necessarily want to go back into payroll. And, the entrepreneurial bug kind of struck. Um, my cousin had a juice business. He was making natural juices. It's called fresh cut juices, actually. And he had a few different flavors going, and he was getting really popular by just showing up at events where people were and selling juices. And so we'd get there with like a big tote bin full of juices. And the goal was to, sell the bin before you left the event. I would always laugh saying that, I'd get help bringing the bins out, but the goal was to make sure the bin was empty so you didn't have to have help to bring the bin back home.
There you go.
And that got pretty popular for him until he was at 2 and 3 locations at once. And, the juices started to take off. And then we were looking for a commercial place to start mass producing the juices. They started to be in the local West Indian Caribbean stores, the smaller grocery stores. We were at maybe about 150 different stores at the height of that, and it just started to expand. So at that point, we did get a commercial space. The commercial space had 3 units, and our mindset was with this space, we can't just have one income. We have to diversify our revenue streams just to make sure that we can pay the bills. So the juices was in one part of the hall. The second part of the hall became a kitchen. And then the third part of the hall was a multi-functioning, we called it an event center, where,
There
you
you
could
go.
have baby showers, birthday parties, all these varieties of different things. And then with the complement of the kitchen there, that, we could do catering, we can provide food for also the events that was happening, and then the juices could be mass produced. So that started. We got a space. We ended up doing construction, renovation. We opened that in 2017. The restaurant is called Topaz Event Center. And I was basically, again, my cousin was doing the juices, but with being such a big conglomerate now, it's an event center. You've got different moving parts. There's a kitchen, there's a restaurant aspect to it, there's a bar that needed to be managed. So I kind of handled the event center aspect of it, and my cousin. So I did everything front of the house, and he was the chef and the juice person. So he did most of the back behind the house. And we were very successful in that space for many years. I left that in 2022 and started Flik. Well, it was Flik Fireworks at the time. Um, I remember I was talking to somebody who had a connection with fireworks, and they were saying, I could get you a good deal. Do you want to get some? And I was like, I'll try. And that was right before the we have a Victoria Day weekend. That would be your May 2/4 weekend. So it was right before that holiday period, and it did pretty well. I think I spent about $3,000, and I think I made somewhere about $10,000. And I was like, it's not a bad return,
Yeah.
double, tripled my money. That's cool. And then the next holiday came, which was ours would have been Canada Day, and yours would have been
Yeah.
Independence Day.
Yeah.
And it
July
was a
1st.
similar situation. So I was like, okay. But I didn't really take it on as a job yet. And this was in 2021. I think that was my first season that I did a little something with fireworks. And then 2022, I left Topaz and really said, okay, there's something here. But entrepreneurship is there's a difference when you're working for somebody else. You can work your 8-hour shift, your 10-hour shift, your 12-hour shift, and when you're done, you walk out the door and that's it. When you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't quite work like that. You're expected to do everything until you can hire somebody to do the rest or delegate. So I was in that space and just really started to understand, how do I start a business? What does it take to get beyond my family and friends? How can I start selling to the
There you
masses,
go.
and really start to scale this so that we could actually make some money? It wasn't just a fluke thing. Um, so that's kind of where I started. I was saying, how do I get beyond family and friends? And that's when I said, okay, well, if you're searching for somebody or you want to buy something, what do you do? At that point, Google was still predominant. This was for the Chat GPT revolution. Um, so I got onto Google, and within hours, I had my first sale. I
Wow.
had made $1,000 between two sales within 6 hours. And I was saying, okay. And then I got a website. So I was able to offer more products, and really haggle down. It prevented the haggling because I was showing up and the customers were saying, well, I only want to pay this and I only want to do that. So to prevent that, I streamlined everything by getting a website. You're now able to place your order online, you pay for it online, and then you're able to pick it up. So I started to create systems. So anything that you do more than once, you can automate, and really try to remove yourself from being in the middle. So instead of just calling and saying, what do you have? I can say, okay, if you go to my website, you're able to see everything that I have. You're able to choose what you like. We are open 24 hours for your convenience, so you can pick it up whenever you like. That progressed into, so I was selling fireworks for personal use. Somebody called and said, Shevonne, can you come out and do the fireworks for me? I don't want to do it myself. Got licensed, trained, certified, just to speed up the
Yeah.
story a little bit. Got licensed, trained, and certified. Became Canada's highest trained certified persons in fireworks. Went on from there to become trained and certified in pyrotechnics. And in working with that, we saw that the evolution was going into drones. And I realized that, especially the drones that I was using, the swarm drones, were the cousins to fireworks in
Yeah.
terms of they were creating images in the sky and celebration, and it was in that field. So that appealed to me because it spoke to the fireworks and they could work together. So I went and got licensed, trained, and certified in that. And in the specific area of drones that we were doing, swarm drones, I became Canada's first woman swarm drone pilot. And everything has just been growing from there on all three fronts. We continue to grow. As we all understand, FIFA is coming to both of our countries
Oh
next
yeah,
year.
it's gonna be awesome.
So it's a big opportunity for anybody, especially if you're in the entrepreneurial space. I've heard stories of people making $1 million off of selling flags. It's about really positioning yourself and understanding the crowd, understanding the momentum, and really keeping ahead of what's going to happen, and tapping into, again, somebody's pain point.
Yeah, and you talked about this last time, and it's something that we don't think about. I had just seen Creed in concert last year when you talked about it. You go to these concerts, you watch WWE, you watch NFL, NBA, NHL, all these shows. There's pyrotechnics all over the place. These teams don't have their own people. They are paying professionals that have learned this, and there's a lot of money to be made at it. And that's what where entrepreneurship is. You saw there was a need, and you said, "Hey, I can make some money doing this. Let me do it." And I thought it was so funny. You showed us last time. You had you were out there in Niagara Falls and had all
Yep.
that stuff laid out. You said it takes all day to set this up, so it is
Yep.
not something going to be cheap, because you literally were out there all day getting them set up for the show that night.
Yeah. Yeah. So the setup period, and then even before you get out there, you still have to do all the planning. You have to think the thought process, the queue times, and the levels of what you're trying to anticipate that the people are going to see at the right time. So all of these things are very important. You can't just go out there and willy-nilly. It doesn't work, right? Especially when you're doing a concert or something, and you have to be on cue to the right time at the right beat. So there's definitely mechanics, there's thought process involved. There's a lot of STEM in here. There's science, there's tech, there's engineering, there's math. Um, and there's, again, even the art aspects. You can even say STEAM, because there's an aspect of creativity to this, that the designing aspect, the imagination aspect. And that's really what makes this so beautiful, is that each show is custom and each show is
Wow.
unique, but every show delivers impact.
Awesome. Now, before I get to their questions, you mentioned something that I always like to talk about because you talked about reaching the customer and selling. And something that I am such a stickler on is being able to get those sales and communication skills while you're in high school.
Yes.
Because they moan and groan and get upset that I make them present, but having those skills is so vital to being successful in business. Because the story I always tell, we had another guest one time who had written a book, and she was at a book fair and said these people had spent years of their life and tons of money writing these books, and we're literally sitting there at a table hoping people will come up and buy them.
Hmm.
And if you're ever going to be successful in business, you've got to be the person in front of the table engaging the customer. uh, Closed mouths don't get fed. And and I know kids get nervous. We're such a technical generation where everybody's on their phones, but the entrepreneurs that set themselves apart, they not only have the great work ethic, they have the great product, they have the streamlined service, which is cool on your website. But at the end of the day, you can sell it to somebody and say, "Hey, I'm Shevonne Chin. I'm the founder of Flik FX. Here's why you should use me." And those skills right there is what sets people apart. So why is it so important to hone those customer service communication skills right now?
Oh, that is critical. And when I was in just coming out of high school, I did a lot of customer service jobs and I was doing the telemarketing thing at the time. And I had no idea that it would propel me to where I am now because I was dealing with so many customers and dealing with so much rejection, but it prepares you for something that, it just builds your resilience. Because when you're calling people on the phone, hi, I remember I was doing a breakfast for learning. We were raising funds for kids to have breakfast in the morning. And out of 100 people that you call, you may get one person that's willing to donate, but it's about really positioning yourself. And that's something that I've really really learned, and you can sell anything to anybody as long as you frame it properly. I
Absolutely.
remember just yesterday I was in a meeting and I'm doing something here with FIFA, and we're trying to put together a board of different people, creatives, to get the thought process going together. And there was one person who I wanted to, or who I want on the board, and he's a pastor. And they were saying, oh, Shevonne, he's always busy. He doesn't have time. He can't do it. And I said, um, just ask the pastor. All I'm asking for is 15 minutes once a month. Now, as a pastor, how do you refuse that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's about, yes, you could be busy. I'm not asking you to do anything. If you're very specific in your ask, and if how you frame it, you make it impossible to say no. He's so busy. Okay, Pastor, I just want one prayer once a month, 15 minutes. Okay, Shevonne. So, in every sale, in every transaction, it's about showing the benefit to the person, and showing them why your solution makes sense to them, and especially if it's within their own wheelhouse, it's easy. So you make it
Wow.
as easy as you can for yourself. I understand he's a pastor. I'm looking for prayer. It's already within your wheelhouse. How do I make it make sense to you? And I just use that as an example. But everything can be framed in this way. Everybody wants something, so it's about making the deal make sense on both sides. If you're the one who's selling, you have to make it the one that's most attractive. Understand what their issue is. And if you
There you go.
really listen, everybody's got something they've got a problem.
Absolutely. And that's
Everybody's
what
got
entrepreneurship is. Now, before I get to these questions, I want to make sure I heard you right because you've mentioned a couple of times. Are you doing something with the World Cup in 2026?
Shh.
Okay.
So
I
yeah,
can't,
it's coming. Look for us. Look for us. It's coming.
oh, I
But
can't wait to see it. That's going to be so cool. I'm a big soccer fan, so that's awesome.
there
But I
you
do
go.
have some questions.
Mhm.
Do you have some
I
questions
was
for the
just gonna
students?
say before we even go there, I was saying that, and this is even with what I'm doing, um, I'm creating an opportunity.
There you go.
It- it's about being creative and thinking out the box and then presenting something to them that again they can't refuse. So I'm selling myself to this FIFA organization, so to speak,
Wow.
or to the city or even to the event planners of what I can do and why they should work with me. So it's constantly pitching yourself, your business, and why you're qualified for the job and or for the stage. Even if they didn't consider you initially. Just one last quick thing is I saw my city is having this big tech conference, and it's huge. Um, and I saw the announcements going out, and they were saying all these people are listed and all these people are going to be there. And I wrote the organizer and said, "Hey, I think this is the stage that, I should be on." And he wrote me back and he's like, "Yeah, why do you think you should be there?" And, I gave him a list of, this is what I do. This is what would benefit you. This is how it would benefit your event. And just yesterday, he wrote me back and said, "Shevonne, you're on the big stage, biggest stage I've ever been on." And it was just about me being audacious and saying, "Hey, I think I should be
Awesome.
here."
That's awesome.
So don't be afraid to be that person. If you see a room that you think that you should be in, ask. You'd be surprised. They'll let you in.
Yeah, and that's such a great point because I know we've talked about this. I've got a room full here with me of young black kids, and just like in Canada, in the United States, it's been the same struggle. But
Yep.
if you don't try to put yourself in there, the only thing you're ever going to hear is no.
Yep.
So yeah, it's tough sometimes, and there's definitely the struggle that you'll never hear me say otherwise. But at the end of the day, you have to change things for yourself. So that's such a great
Well,
point.
well, for and again, the no's make you better because they build you towards your yes. And sometimes all you need is just one yes.
There you go.
All
All right,
right.
I'm gonna get as many of these as I can. This is Kaylin Bullock. She's in ninth grade, and she asked, "How do you balance out your life as a professional, a business owner, and a mother in order to get things done?"
It's constantly a juggling act. I've become a master juggler. Every day is no 2 days are the same. And all I can do is do my best. I'm not saying that I am perfect in any kind of manner. And some days some things do fall through the cracks, but for when one thing misses, something else works. So, you try to make that make sense in your life. And as long as you're following your passion and it's fueling what you're doing, eventually it all makes sense.
Love it. I like this one. This is Shateria Hennon. She's in 10th grade, member of our band and one of our member of our archery team. And she asked, "How do you handle business competition? Is it stressful in this industry?"
It is, but what I've done is I've got my competitors, and it's about standing out and being different. So, as for instance, for fireworks, there were several big players in the market long before I got here, and they're still big players, but they're still looking to me as to, I'm their competition, and I'm not looking at them as they're my competition. And the reason why is I positioned myself in a place where they're not. So, as much as they're
There you
doing,
go.
they're what I'm doing. So it's about finding that unique sweet spot. And what's my unique sweet spot is I'm open 24 hours. So when they're closed, I'm always open.
Wow.
My peak time for customers is between 8 p.m. and 2 a.m. So and identifying that separates me holistically. And when they're closed, my Google stats are high because we're always open.
Wow. I got time for two more. This is Avery Harris. She's in 10th grade, one of our volleyball players and a champion archer here. And I love this question. She asked, "How do you identify your target market, and has your target market evolved since you've been open?"
Oh, absolutely. It's about identifying the pain points and um who has the most money within that pain point and really working with them first and then dialing down to all the other subsidiary income streams. Um, it's really about identifying your niche and really working within it and fleshing out your unique value proposition and making that so appealing that they have to come to you.
Love it. All right, I got one more. This is Raheem Cole. He's in ninth grade, and he asks, "What do you do if the fireworks don't go off when you're trying to shoot
That hasn't happened yet. As long as you
Knock
light
on
them
wood.
in your Yeah, exactly. As long as you light them properly. And for me, I like to do a lot of hand firing. Sometimes when we're doing the bigger shows, we're doing electric firing. So you're just pressing a button and it's going doom, 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 doom. But even in that, if you're prepared and if you follow what you're supposed to do, they should go off in succession. And usually it's not just one. So even if one doesn't go off, the other 100 will. So that's usually a rare one off. But there's always the opportunity to hand light them. So I just grab the stick, you light them, boom, it goes off.
Yeah, and we've seen the video of you hand lighting. It is absolutely hilarious because you kind of jump on a couple of them, but still
It's,
really cool. But you know what? You don't see a lot of women doing that, so it was cool in itself. Now we're almost out of time, and as always, we thank you so much for joining us. It's just so cool what you're doing up there in Canada. But before we go, first of all, tell us where we can find you online to see some of your work, and you're a great social media follow.
Oh, thank you. You can follow me on Instagram. It's FlickFX that you can see up there on the screen corner. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me Shevonne Chin, FlickFX. They're both on LinkedIn. I'm very active. I like to communicate. You have any questions, please reach out. Greg, I'm always available to talk to your classes anytime. It's my newest passion, especially in just finishing the residency with the library. They're actually trying to bring me back. So I'm really, really loving the entrepreneurial space and trying to help people to really think outside the box. So the one thing that I will tell everybody is to really carve out that 30-second or 1 minute elevator pitch. So when you meet
There you
somebody,
go.
you know what you're saying, you know what the problem that you're solving. So you need to say, my hi, my name is Shevonne Chin. I'm triple certified in fireworks, pyrotechnics, and I'm Canada's first woman swarm drone pilot. And we provide smart advertising with data-driven results.
I'm so glad you said that because we're doing mission and vision statements, and I said it is. I cannot tell you how important it is to be able to tell people what you're doing. Now that'll take me to. We'll end up on this. As these kids are getting through high school and they're starting to think about their businesses. Why is it so important to hone these entrepreneurial skills right now, whether they want to be an entrepreneur or not?
Whether you want to be an entrepreneur or not, these skills will take you throughout a lifetime. And the more that you master them right now, when you don't have to be paid in an environment where you've got bills to pay and you've got kids to feed and you've got all these different things, it really sets you apart. If you can figure out how to make money now and separate yourself for a lifetime. Because for me, I figured it out in my 40s. And I'm looking to, I've said, in the next 5 years, I'm ready to be retired. But if I had done this
Wow.
in my high schools or in my 20s, how much more businesses could I have done? How much more further could I have gone? If I had understood if they had taught me entrepreneurship in high school, it would have been a whole different world for me. Um, so I really encourage you to, if it's something that you are pursuing, to do it. And if it's something that you can learn towards, there's so much support. Really reach out, because I found that I didn't know there was support and resources out there, but every time I looked, they were right there, and 90% of them were free, and most of them were available through the library. So your library in your school is really, really big resources of free programming, free literature, free exposure to all kinds of
Yeah.
courses and workshops that you wouldn't traditionally have, and really just plug into a network, because you really need to build a community in whatever industry you're going in. So find your community, um, figure out your 1 or 2 minute pitch, and just continue to grow and expand.
Love it, and I know our librarian Miss Berry would love to hear that. But again, as always, it's just so cool to hear all the things you're doing. You're one of my favorite guests. But we want to thank Shevonne Chin all the way from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Ontario, Canada. I want
Yeah.
to say it right. Owner of Flik FX. Thank you so much for taking some time for us today.
Every time and anytime, Greg, you can book me anytime. You know how to get me.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a great day,
See ya.
everybody.